There we go. All right. Welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So cheers, Thaddeus. And we have on Ryan Blackburn and Robert Smith from the Prestige Contact Group. Really excited to have this conversation today. We are stealing, straight up, we'll give credit where credit is due. We're stealing the intro side of things from our good friends Tersh and Josh, where it's just the two of us to start with, doing a little bit of an intro for the show, introducing our guests for the week, talking about our show sponsors, as we've got a couple of them now. So we want to make sure that we give some proper credit to them as well. And a big thank you for them, because without them, I mean, the show probably would still go on, but it just is going to get so much better because of them. So we'll give credit where credit is due.
Exactly. Well, I'm looking forward to today's episode, and it's actually fun fact. We actually know Ryan and Robert from a previous business that we were in. Maybe we'll get into a little bit about that as well, and how branding can help your business.
Maybe. Yeah. Awesome. Well, to give them a proper intro, so Ryan and Robert, they are the CEO and the co-founder. Robert is the CEO. Ryan is the director of business development and the co-founder as well, obviously. But their vision for Prestige, it was born out of the experience and recognition of a white glove service centered on customer experience simply is lacking within the home service space. And what they did was they put together a program that is engineered to be at the focal point of the introduction of the experience with the customer. And it's starting right on the phone. And so today, they're not coming in here to try and sell you shit and why you should work with them by directly saying you should come work with us. They're doing it by delivering value, which is one of our core values, which is why we really align with them and why we're super excited to have this conversation with them today. Because they want to deliver value on the customer experience, what that really looks like. They want to deliver value on CSRs, working with a CSR, how to manage that from a business owner perspective, general manager, et cetera, operations manager. How do you work with your CSR to help improve their numbers? What are the numbers that you should be looking at, right? All of these things we're going to get into today so you can deliver a better customer experience from the front end of your business.
I don't think I need to say anything.
Perfect. Well, we do want to say thank you to our two sponsors. So
I can do one of those. Right. All right. So the first one is Sarah Systems, and you can reach out to them, sales.sarah.tech/HVAC-revealed. What I love about them is the fact that they get granular on increasing your efficiencies as an organization in doubling your efficiency, but also doubling your bottom line in your EBITDA. And allowing you to grow your business without adding extra staffing on it. It is a fascinating, phenomenal software. Be sure to check that out.
And to go right in line with that, Profit Rocket, they are coming out with their brand new business blueprint at their event coming up here in October. If you're not going to be at the event, you can still get on the wait list for that. But what the business blueprint is, it's all about building your bottom line, not just top line revenue, but bottom line profits, right? Everything that Victor has built within his business, everything that he built in the beginning, and then realized he wasn't doing so well at, as he revealed on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, almost went bankrupt in his business, to now being extremely profitable on his way to becoming a $50 million a year business in just 4 years. He's going to deliver everything from setting up your P&Ls, SOPs for all your positions, call scripts, marketing plans, call processes, and so much more. This product is going to change the way you do business. To learn more about that, you can head over to profitrocketbusinessblueprint.paperform.co. It's a long ass URL, but you can get on the wait list for that. And you can find out all the information when it drops at his event in Vegas coming up in a hot minute. Without further ado, let's get on with the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
All right. Not too bad. First time doing that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome, Ryan, Robert. Appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
What's up, guys? Nice to see you.
Awesome. So I guess for starters, let's talk about your journey into the trades. Why the trades? Why is this something that you're so passionate about in delivering this white glove service to the home services?
Well, Robert has a different story than me, but I got into the industry actually. Victor's my cousin, so I came in through him after learning about the success that he had and just the amount of opportunity that was within it. And I had a few stops along the way, and learned a lot about what to do and what not to do within the space. Both are great teachers, and so kind of came to understand that specifically within the contact center space, there really doesn't exist the kind of level of service that I would want as an HVAC owner specifically. And, it just kind of grew from there.
Love it. Robert, what about you? Your journey to the trades?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. As a consultant, I worked with a lot of I specialize in scaling businesses. And so one of the things, my very first client way back when, a gazillion years ago, when the dinosaurs were walking around, so I get white hair, I have the brain damage to prove it. So, but my very first client was in the trades, and he owned a plumbing kind of drain cleaning business, and him and his wife started it, and we grew it to about a $9.5 million business in about 4 or 5 years. And the thing that we found out and we discovered was it was the customer services, the customer experience that was everything. That's what was the distinguishing, because if you remember back then, plumbers and HVAC guys and things like that, there was a lot of interesting things going on in the home, everything from vertical smiles and things like this, where, people would sit there and go, oh my God, like, get out of here. But the point was that we decided to really change how that industry operated. And that's what we did. We looked at it from a standpoint where the first company to look at how to set appointments for people. Like, we guaranteed to be on time every time we set actual appointments, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, whenever it was, instead of being there because at the time, we'll be there between 8 and 12. Well, with two people working, living the American dream, right? Who's home, right? Well, today that's a little bit different. But the point was at the time, it was like, what was the most important thing was everybody thought it was about money, right? Like how much do you charge to clean a drain or whatever like that. And it wasn't, it was time, because we found out that most people wanted to know, I got something going on in my house now. I want you to be here. When can you be here? And so what we did was we guaranteed that. We guaranteed to be on time, or we're a minute late, you get $15 off the call. If we're 15 minutes late, calls on us, and we'll do all the work for free. And totally changed the whole dynamics. And then we worked in, HVAC, we worked in plumbing, we worked in electrical, I've worked in remodeling, all the different trades all over the place. So yeah. And I built I've worked in about 200 different industries all over the planet, and I've got ADD severely, and so I get bored really easy. So it was like, I'd sit there, okay, I nailed that one. Let's go do another one. And let's go do these guys. And it was a lot more fun. And, I built several companies and sold them and things like that. But anyway, so, and then when I met Ryan, we were in a mutual business, and we started talking. And then when I saw this business, it was just something that was fascinating to me, because I was sitting there I was looking around, and we're going like, wow, what's wrong? What's going on with, customer experience and customer service? And the truth was that, especially from what we do, there was a lot of missing pieces, because we believe in building relationships. If people really want to be successful, super successful in the HVAC industry or any home services business, it's really about building relationships. It's not about transactions. Right. And so many people focus on the transactions, although they talk about relationships, but they pay lip service to it. And we all know it, because we buy those services, and we're kind of going, really? Like you really want me to pay you more money for this? And it's something that I'm always fascinated at, looking how the dynamics of how businesses are grown. And that's what I appreciate you having us on here and stuff. And hopefully the things that we can share will help your audience.
I love it. Well, and that kind of sparks a question right away in terms of the customer journey, right? When we look at how most home service businesses are setting themselves up, everyone talks about, oh, we offer an exceptional client experience and we offer good customer service, and everyone seems to have the same value proposition. There's very few that really try to separate themselves in that arena. So in your experience, and you kind of alluded to a few of them right now, Robert, but and this is for both of you to answer because both of you are in this space, but when it comes to truly separating yourselves from competitors in terms of value up front, how is it that you can do that before the phone even rings?
Well, if you're going to like look at it from a standpoint of value, then you got to look at what your competitors are really doing. And I'll go back to that one example. One of the things is we actually have a perception that money has anything to do with how people buy things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really finding the motivating factor that's underneath that's driving it, right? And then offer that and offer an extraordinary experience, like offer something that's really unique. You know, it's almost like we have clients that'll actually do the entire job, you know, and they'll guarantee everything. And they'll guarantee to buy it back from you if it doesn't work or isn't like that. And one of the things that people don't realize is that there's so many bait and switch companies out there. I'm going to call them trucks in a truck. And, you know, they're all over the place and they say they can do these things. And so from a competitor's point of view, when they look at what that's going to be like, it's like, what does your client really, really want? And you have to get down, and that's where the value lives. And the value lives in, if you want to call it, you know, unique value proposition or whatever that looks like, you know, it's just like being on time every time, you know, that type of thing. Ask for details. If you actually offer that up and tell people that, and then you sit there and you got to look around the universe, what is everybody else advertising? Right. You know, you have to take a look at you have to do the research and do your work and look at what all your competitors in your local market, because that's where you're pulling from, you know, what are they actually really doing and how are they going to deliver their services? You know, a lot of people say, well, we're 24/7. Let me ask you a question, or anybody on this call. Have you ever called those 24/7 services? It's absolutely amazing. We did secret shopping with a bunch of these clients and things, which was really fun. And we found out that over 70% of these people that offer 24/7 services, they don't. And well, we'll be to your house tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. And I'm going, I don't need you there tomorrow afternoon. I need you here now, you know. And they're going, well, we have somebody out in the field right now, but he's on this job that's going to take him all night. And I'm going, okay, so let me go to the next guy. And and then what happens is nobody answers the phone. I get I get an answering voicemail. I get this, I get that. The same thing goes with maybe how the experience is delivered too. I don't know. Some people are like, they're of the size. They might be a $4 or $5 million company, and after hours, is their phone answered by creative voicemail? Like, did they ever even consider having an actor actually do their voicemail and making their voicemail interesting and fun and unique, you know? And we've done that for a variety of different companies. And those people that are on this call, if you actually look at creative voicemail and realize before you even talk to somebody, imagine so you don't have a live person answering. Well, at least make the experience fun, make it enjoyable, make it unique. You know, and we've done that for a variety of different things. You can have all kinds of construction noises. You can have all different types of things going on relative to the back noise and the backdrop. You can tell them, you know, yeah, we're out there, you know, rooting a line or whatever it is. If you happen to be a plumbing company, and, you know, there's so many different things and a variety of different things you can do relative to that. So,
love it. And so, if we were to reframe that, so one of the things I loved about what you said there, Robert, to paraphrase it really quick, is take a look at your competitors, see what it is that they're offering. How can you reverse engineer that so that you can then create something that's unique and different and help yourself stand out in the marketplace? Ryan, my question to you is reverse engineering the customer experience. If you were to put yourself in a customer's position in that situation, more often than not, they're not really excited and happy to be calling a home service company. It's usually because shit's gone wrong, shit's gone sideways, and they're uncomfortable within their home, whether their toilet's flooding, power's out, it's too hot, it's too cold in the home. They're uncomfortable. And so if you were to reverse engineer the customer experience, what sort of value propositions would you want to have out there that would help you to stand out as a company that's really speaking to the needs of that customer? By the way, you did hit one, so I'll give you kudos for that right away.
Well, I mean, I think that the biggest thing is just that they feel that you actually care and that that's genuine. You know, the person that's on the phone, like, you know, I tend to talk with my hands a lot, you know, and it's like, so when you're doing that, you're getting into what you're saying. And like, if you couldn't see me, you could feel it. Right. And so, the experience that we have together that, with BVM, there's a lot of phone calls that take place there. Right. And so, I used to lead a call every month, in front of like 500 people, and it was cold calling live. And like, if you don't smile, like you're never, it doesn't matter what you say, it's not going to work.
Nope.
Right. And so it's all about the delivery and how you go about doing that. In terms of, you know, and then I also way back, I used to be a mechanic, and, you know, and I worked on small engine equipment. And so people would bring their stuff in, and, you know, that's never a happy transaction, right? You know, they got a $200 lawnmower and they come in and they go, a tune-up is $100. I paid $200 for this, you know, and then you kind of got to talk people down off the ledge a little bit. And it's just, you know, the idea is people got stuff going on in their life, and you never know what that stuff is. And even if it doesn't seem that big to you, it's really big to them. And that's all that really matters. And so approaching it from the perspective that you could make a difference in that person's day, and really attempting to make every person that you interact with make their day better for having had talked to you. That's a mindset thing that starts before you get on the phone. And, you know, so that's something that's super important in terms of, I'm not sure if I understood the question though, because you asked me about a value proposition and how it relates to customer service on the phone.
Yeah. So there's two sides of it, right? It's the value prop up front. Right? Why is someone going to call you, and how can you connect with their experience that they're in right now? Number one. And then number two, meeting them right when they are calling with empathy, with compassion, understanding that they're probably in a frustrating situation.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you can do that, then, you know, you bring the walls down a little bit, and they're willing to actually, you know, connect with you. You build some trust. And, you know, what that does is it enables your technician that you're going to send out to be able to already have a certain amount of trust that customer has built with the company. You know, and that starts with what Robert was talking about and how you're building your brand. But, you know, how you operate within your business is your brand. You know, it's just the actual like personification of it. And so there needs to be consistency across every process, which is, you know, the experience that your customer has. That's what happens before a sale is closed, right? The service that you give is what happens after the sale is closed. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of HVAC companies that they invest a whole lot in sales training and classes related to that sort of thing, because the acquisition of new customers is so important. And it is like 100% it is. Nothing happens until a sale is made in any business. So like 100%. But the flip side of that is like, what happens, you know, when after that, you know, what are you doing after that? Is the only time that you're ever reaching out to your customer base when, you know, you're trying to sell something? Are you doing the happy calls? You know, like what is it that you're doing within your touch point process that you have, or do you have one where you're actually reaching out to people and providing value, and not just like some sort of like scammy kind of sales pitch? And so, you know, that's on the outbound and the inbound side of things. But yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, it's the experience that you give over the phone, and that the feeling that you get from talking to somebody that you know genuinely cares. You can tell when, you know, like I have a trash service. I'm not going to mention any names, but they basically have a monopoly on that in my area. And like, man, if I could hire a competitor, I would, because I can't get a person on the phone unless I wait on hold for 40 minutes. And when I do get somebody on the phone, I just know that they're making less than like $12 an hour. And they're so dispassionate. They do not care about whatever the issue is. And like, you just don't feel appreciated when that happens. And if you don't feel appreciated, why are you going to want to spend your money when there's however many other competitors in the same market?
Right. Well, I think you mentioned a good thing, the experience on the phone, and that goes back to tying into what Robert was saying earlier about, people also want an idea of when you answer the phone. I mean, I don't want to say cold call, but like mystery shopper your own business and see how your CSRs do on the phone. I mean, if you're the only person answering the phone, well, then record your conversation and then go back and listen to yourself and look at through the lens of a customer and how are they going to experience that first interaction. If they're a repeat customer, they already have that trust. But if it is the first time that they're interacting with your organization, what is their experience like? And it's going to be big, right? And I know, Robert, you're talking earlier about 24/7 on there, and I wanted to get a clarification here from one of the questions in our group. I think you said if you offer 24/7 to make a creative voicemail, so you have an excuse why you can't go. Re-walk us through what you had mentioned there for the 24/7 services.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the things is that well, there's a couple things here. And I just wanted to add something before I answer that too. You need to take your CSRs and you need to do two things. You need to pay them well and you need to train them well. And those are the two factors that don't happen, because very often the CSRs are the lowest paid people on the planet. And what ends up happening is, so think about this. You have a $5 million business. You're paying your CSRs maybe 15, 17 bucks an hour. So this is what you're actually saying. I'm betting a $5 million business on a $15 an hour person. That's what you're saying. It's like gambling, it's just like, really? And oh yeah, by the way, we kind of trained it. We kind of trained her or him, whatever it was. We didn't. It's amazing. They don't take the time and the effort. Oh no, we trained them once. We put them through a class. I'm going, oh, okay, great. What, 2 weeks ago? And I said, do you have ongoing training? If you're not training your people on a continuous basis, how are you going to be able to manage, these CSRs? Oh, no, they'll pick it up. You don't understand. The more they're on the phone, the better they are. And you made a really good point, Thaddeus, relative to, the secret shoppers. Get 5 of your best friends in business, if you have any friends, but get 5 of those. Have them call your business, right? Have them call your business and ask questions, ask the tough questions, that type of thing, because that's going to give you some real true answers, because they're going to tell you, they're going to go, man, I'll tell you what, I don't know what happened to this person, but it wasn't really a great experience. But have them rate it from 0 to 10 and pick out like 5 different categories, pick out quality, pick out timeliness, ask them questions about the business. We did this one time, and I'll go to the 24/7 and they said, what do you do? They said, I don't know. I just work here. And, so you got to think about what I just said. It's amazing. Ask them. So tell me more about your services. What is it that you do? How can you help me? Because that's why it is that you're calling. From the 24/7, when I'm talking about creative voicemail, it's like creative voicemail is designed for engagement purposes. That's what it's to engage your heart. We talk about facts and figures and being a business scaler. I understand financials and all of that stuff. But it's really the emotions. How do you capture the heart of the person who's calling? How do you capture them emotionally? How do you connect to them? Because that's really what you're looking for. Because you got to think about it. They're pretty emotional when they're calling. If they're calling you after hours, So if they're calling you after hours, you have to set the temperament for that with the CSRs who's ever managing that. And or if you don't have the CSR, at least have a creative voicemail that's on there that's been professionally produced. I mean, you got what, a minute of a recording on there, and then if you have to even give your personal cell, do it. It's like, what's the value of taking care of a client in a way that they know that they matter? Because that's one of the problems. If you don't take care of that, or if you just ignore them, or you just throw them off into voicemail hell, and we all know what that's like, it's just like, or it goes into the ether somewhere. It doesn't even answer, because your technology is so poor. It's just like, you didn't invest in like even the most simplest of systems out there. it's not that hard, because when you really look at it, that customer that's on the other line 24/7, if he's calling you or she's calling you at 1 o'clock in the morning, they need help. And if you can't help them, at least have somebody call them back immediately so you can have a conversation. But so many times that doesn't occur. You know, you just feel like it's a number. You know, I don't know if that answers
with that. Yeah, and Bobby, let us know if that answers your question for you. I got two parts. I guess the first one is, do you want to do a 1-minute professional voicemail? Those that might not understand customer service, you know, they came from the tools. What can you give us an example? I know it's off the cuff of what a voicemail should sound like for after hours.
Oh, absolutely. You should have, number one, you should have music. You should have a professional voice. It should be female, and it should be very welcoming. And it's just something that, you know, and I don't have the recording. I have some. If people wanted to hear them, I'd be happy to play them for them. But it would take me a while to pull them up. But the point is that you hire a voiceover to actually do get somebody to write the script relative to, so that it's professionally done, and welcome people and thank them for calling, and tell them after hours, we realize you're calling after hours, and we totally understand that you're calling us because this is really important, or you wouldn't be contacting us. Like, tell the truth about it, right? So that there's an acknowledgement and that there's a link to the conversation, not like, thank you for calling, Joe's HVAC. We're glad you called, leave a message. We'll get back to you. It's like, are you kidding? Now ask yourself, how many times have you called a business after hours and that's what you heard?
Right.
As opposed to saying, somebody calling up and, and saying that, this is John's HVAC, we realize that you're calling us after hours, and we understand that there must be something very important you need to talk to us about. Our system is set up that they're going to contact us immediately, and we're going to get somebody to call you right back. We promise. And thank you very much for calling, and just wait to hear from us in just a few minutes. Something like that. That is so different, and it's a different style of doing this. And with technology today, there's no reason why you can't get that managed.
Right.
Totally.
The follow-up to that, and maybe Ryan, you can shed some light on this, is we hear a lot about automations and missed call text back. I'm a big fan of it, about having a missed call text back in there, because by and large, most people are calling from cell phones these days. The landlines just don't exist. So with what Robert's saying about this professional after hours voicemail, would you still have perhaps a missed call text back that automatically goes out after?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's huge value in automating different things. Whenever you can automate something in a way that where you're not cheapening your whole process to the point where you're removing the human element, then why wouldn't you do that? I mean, you're going to increase efficiency and it's going to cost less. Those are all great things. I think that, in the realm of anything that has to do with marketing, because in my opinion, I think there's a really good argument to make that the experience that you create for your customers is part of your marketing, because that is a huge part of either creating alignment with the brand image that you're putting forward, or people are calling you and they're having this experience with your company, or your technician is coming out and that experience doesn't line up with the messaging that you're putting forward. And then, it's false in the mind's eye of the consumer. And that's really all that matters. But as far as that goes, like, there's tools and then there's strategy, right? And so your strategy is what should dictate what tools you're using and when and where and why. And so I think that there is a little danger when it comes to some forms of AI, because sometimes it's like, oh, well, we don't need people. We don't even need to list a phone number on our website. We don't need to do those things. And people can just email us, because everybody loves emailing and everybody loves getting, 5,000 text messages in a day where they feel like they're being spammed and they're just a number that's trying to be sold to. Obviously, I'm kidding. And so, like, there's a balance to find with that. Like, in almost everything, you have to find the right balance. So as far as like text backs go, yeah, that's awesome, because if you can catch that person right away and they're on their cell phone and it's like they reached out to you and initiated things, then like 100%. Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea.
You know, one of the things too, I just wanted to add something to that, if that's all right. Forrester Research just got finished doing a test on this relative to text back automation. And what they found out was that 58% of the businesses believe that they're doing a great job with that, right? Yet 15% of the customers would agree with that. So what's happened is that not only the technology, it's great to have it, but what is it that you're saying in that text as well? And how is it received? I mean, people don't realize that this customer service, and this is really good with text. What are you saying? It's in the details. It's not the big picture. It's in all these little tiny touch points, and that's a touch point. And, you know, what are you saying in that text? And is it something that, and how are you treating that person? And are they going to receive and read that in a way that's going to touch them? So anyways.
Right. Well, no, and that kind of actually dovetails what I was going to say is that the thing with missed call text back is some people say, well, I just need one text message for 24/7, 365, no matter what time I call. Well, no, that's incorrect. Because if somebody calls during the day and I'm thinking specifically the businesses that don't maybe necessarily have the capabilities to have a dedicated CSR answering the phone every single time, because there are those businesses out there. You know, they're a one-man operation, and if they're installing an AC unit, they might not be able to answer their phone. But you can set up a missed call text back in a way to be able to phrase it so that it's beneficial to that particular person. You can also set it up that when it's outside of your office hours, they get a separate message and a separate workflow that goes in with it. And so if you have the voicemail that Robert's talking about, now your text message say, hey, we noticed that you just gave us a call. You likely left us a message for some after hours services. Is text message better for you? ? Right. And now you can have a conversation. Maybe they might like a text message, and your on-call staff can then text message back versus having a phone call. Right. There's different ways to do it. That's just one example on some of those things.
Nice.
Well, and all of these are tools. At the end of the day, it's again, reverse engineering the customer experience. What is it that they're feeling after hours? What is it that they're feeling during business hours? Right? Are you catering a voicemail to how frustrated they are that they didn't reach you? Right? I would love to hear that. Like, hey, sorry we couldn't answer the phone. I know it's so frustrating to hear a voicemail right now when you are probably having an emergency and you need your air conditioner fixed. You have a plumbing issue. I promise we're going to get back to you right away. In fact, we're going to send you a text right after this in case that's easier for you.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Why not?
Yeah, because that's the agreement. Because you have to, when you're in adult learning, you have to produce alignment with people, right? Yes. I mean, in your conversation, and without alignment, they're not going to understand. There's going to be this type of thing. It's going to be a pushback. If you're speaking one way and they're talking another, you know what happens? It's a train wreck. Totally. So what you just said was absolutely true, because when you acknowledge what's happening, then alignment occurs. They're going to be pulled towards you more than if you just use something that's a standard, whatever it is that you want to use as far as communicating with people. Totally. You know, so it has to come also, because then if you and I'm going to go back to this, and anybody on this call, I want you to get this one piece of anything we say that means anything today, and that you have to capture their emotional state. You have to capture that. You have to align with that. That's what it is that they're looking for. People remember how they feel when they talk with you. People remember what happened. It's not the intellectual stuff. It's how they feel. Was I, God, do they care? You know, do they really care about what's going on? And when a situation like that occurs, that's immediate, what you were just talking about. So yeah, absolutely. Indeed.
Sweet. Well, we are just over halfway through the show, so we want to make sure we get this in, which is our random question generator. Random question, middle part of the show, has nothing to do with anything we talked about, and it's a lot of fun. So, Thad, do you have the questions queued up?
Sure. This one is, well, who wants to go first, Robert or Ryan?
I'll let Ryan go first, because then I can watch him this.
All right. So the way that it works is Yeah, the way that works is we have 3 questions. We don't get to tell you what the question is in advance. You just get to choose what they are. And fun fact, I actually haven't even read them, so I don't even know what they are. So Ryan, do you want question 1, 2, or 3?
Let's go with 1.
Go with 1. What's something you always wanted to do as a child but never got to do?
Skydive. I've never been skydiving.
I always wanted to do that as a child.
I wanted to jump out of an airplane. Actually, well, it started with I wanted to actually get on an airplane because we never went on vacations when I was young. So I didn't get on an airplane until I was in probably in high school. But yeah, I wanted to skydive.
It's in common with Thaddeus then in terms of
my
young in life.
My first ever experience on an airplane, I was 19 years old, and then I jumped out of it. So there's a fun fact. Yeah, I went skydiving when I was 19. First time ever on an airplane, and I was like, all right, let's go skydiving, and jumped out of the perfectly good airplane. So and I've done it another time after that, and it is an absolute rush, and I will do it again. It's crazy. It's wild.
I'm gonna have to check it off the list at some point.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, but don't do the tandem. I mean, the tandem is okay, but if you actually do it solo the first time, you go up to like 3,500 feet, and they just basically you jump out of the airplane and your chute automatically opens. And then if you do it a second time, you can actually go through like the course. I mean, you don't have to do the course, but you'd actually go up and you jump out and you do everything by yourself. And like, yeah, you're checking your gauges and everything, so you're not like fully immersed in the experience as much as if you were to go tandem, but then you're solo, right? And way better.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Robert, we got 3 questions for you, and they're very different than Ryan's. So you get to pick 2, 1, 2, or 3.
How about number 3?
What's the worst job you ever had?
Oh my God. Well, I guess when the circus comes to town, somebody has to clean up after it, So, no, I think the worst job I ever had was probably when I was a kid. I was raised on a ranch, and the worst job you could ever have is cleaning stalls. I don't care what anybody says. It's just like we had 110 stalls that we had to clean, and my brother and I, and then we had a couple ranch hands, but they would always make us do these just unbelievable. I mean, it was just, it's as organic as you can imagine.
Sounds like a shitty job.
That was it.
Yeah, it sounds like a shitty job.
Yeah.
Oh, that brings flashbacks. Oh my God. I worked on a feedlot between grade 12 and first year university after I graduated high school, and it was 35 degrees and sunny Celsius. So that's like, I don't know, 85, 90 Fahrenheit. Sunny and hot and sweaty, and we had to take a front end loader and clean out the feedlot, like where the cows were. And basically, you scoop it up with the front end loader, you dump it into the manure spreader, and then once the manure spreader is full, you drive out to the field and you turn it on, and you're spreading cow shit all over the field. I couldn't get that smell out for a while, so
great.
Oh man,
well, I'm glad you didn't say Best Version Media, because that was a riot to work there. It was a real hoot. All right. As far as diving back in, the question that I had, Ryan, for you, one thing you mentioned earlier is, are you just calling people for the sole purpose of trying to sell them something? Or are you calling people for a variety of different reasons and ways to add value? So one, outbound calling, something that not many companies are doing unless they're trying to sell something. So what does your process look like? What is it that you would say is an ideal process for a company to have, either internally or to hire someone like you to come in and do it, that is going to add the most amount of value to customers? And what kind of return are they looking at in terms of brand experience, exposure, and then ultimately sales at the end of it?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're in business, the end goal is for you to bring money in the doors, right? Like, you're not a charity. But I think that how you frame that in your mind is super important, because if your end goal is just, I'm going to go out and I'm going to sell everybody everything. Well, I mean, then that's kind of like your true north that guides you when you're looking at your compass. And so you're going to make decisions according with that. And So if your actual goal is to provide as much value as you possibly can for your customers, and this is any business, and you set out to do that and you do the right things, then the money is a byproduct of that. And it sounds cheesy, and I know that is like such an overused metaphor or whatever, but it's true. And so if your mindset is that I am going to help as many people as I can, ensure that they get the proper maintenance on their systems so that they can reduce the likelihood that they're going to have issues in the future, you're going to go out, you're going to help a bunch of people, and you're going to provide a bunch of value. And in the process, you're going to find a bunch of things that are wrong with the units that you're going out to service. You're going to go through your tune-up process, your turnover process. And, when you have a great sales process that we were talking about before, then you're going to be able to capitalize on those opportunities. But I think it's the mindset behind that really matters, because ultimately people can end up kind of seeing through that. If all you're after is money, then that's how you're going to behave. And, people kind of have a radar for that sort of thing, and they can smell it. Yep. So, in terms of providing the value, it just comes through with understanding that you're the expert in that area. You know what you're doing, and they don't know anything about how their system works and what's necessary to keep it running properly. And they might pretend like they do. I mean, this is kind of going back to me being a mechanic. People would come in and they tell you all sort of things about what's going on with their lawnmower. And it's like, yeah, but you brought it here for a reason, right? Because you don't actually know it. Like, next time, before you take it apart and can't put it back together, bring it to us first, so it's less expensive, kind of thing. And I think that, when it comes to what we're talking about as far as outbounding and setting appointments, whether you're setting complimentary tune-ups or you have a fee that you're charging for that, there's nothing wrong with charging for your services. The entire point is that people need it, and they might not know that. So if you have that proper mindset and frame going into that conversation, then you can approach it in the right way, and it's not going to be salesy and anything else, because you can own that and internalize it. Right.
And so what would be a couple of different examples when someone would want to be outbounding? Like you mentioned, happy client calls, for example. What does that look like? When should you be doing that? How often should you be doing that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I think happy calls should be done after, pretty much every service that you might do to touch base with people and ensure that they're actually, like, one thing is, are you asking if they're satisfied, or are you asking if they're like happy or delighted? Because like satisfied would be like, yeah, meh, but happy or delighted is like, yeah, John came out and he was super helpful. He educated me throughout the entire process. He showed me exactly what was going on, and he wasn't like pushy and didn't try to sell me. He just educated me. And then he was like, here's kind of what your options are. And then I just picked one. There's a huge distinction between that and the pushiness. So but the happy call ensures that you're connecting with them and knowing what the experience is, because you might not know exactly what's taking place out in the field. As far as outbounding, setting tune-up appointments when the weather breaks and the demand isn't coming through from some of the marketing that you're doing, then how are you going to fill up the job board? Well, you're probably going to want to look to help people get their furnaces ready for the winter that's approaching, and so instead of that person having their system break down and then being, a week or two out from service and having to deal with the cold, they could have you come out and do a maintenance and, ensure that everything's working properly. And like, I know everybody listening to this understands this, but like, when you do that, it's not like, oh, I'm dialing for dollars. It's I'm actually trying to help people, and to me, maybe there's some people that disagree with that, but I think that foundationally that sets the tone for how you're actually going to engage with the people that you're talking to and the way that they're going to be treated as a result. And I think that when you're looking at like, okay, I'm going to outbound my customer base so I can bring money in, like, yeah, that's a result of that and helping cash flow. But the other thing is you're getting in front of that target audience that you have, your customer base that's already spent money with you. And it's always easier to do business with somebody that's already done business with you in the past. So much focus is put on new acquisitions where you're going out and you're wanting to acquire new business. Super important, obviously. And everybody talks about it. What they don't talk about is, how do I increase the lifetime value of the clients that I already have so that I can therefore even further increase my bottom line? Yep. Because what if you could increase the money that's coming through your business from people that are already spending it, and every new acquisition that you get was worth that much more? I mean, what would that do for your business? And so, it's not just that you're, hey, I'm gonna set up this system where I call everybody 20 times a day and spam them to death until they buy something. It's like, set it up where you go through and you do that strategically, and you're reaching out to the right people, and you're doing it in a way where you create an experience that, you'd be happy if somebody called your mom that way, and that's kind of the idea.
Totally. Well, and I love that you talked about lifetime value. And this is something we put out a PSA about it last week, I think it was. One to all clients, and then two just within our group and things like that. But, Google ads, the cost per click raised dramatically with the last Google algorithm update that came out a couple weeks ago. So it's been about 3 weeks now. We've seen that escalate as high as like 10x for a cost per click for some keywords, right? And so we were talking with clients about it, and I got to dive in and chat with a few around what is your bottom line cost per acquisition that you need to have within each of these services. And it was very, very insightful diving in with clients who have a dialed in follow-up process and what they believe the lifetime value of a client is versus the short-sighted, oh no, like we need to make money on this call, or like it's not worthwhile for us to get this lead. And it was a phenomenal insight into the mindset of a business owner and what it is that they look at when it comes to this new lead is a new opportunity for us to get a change out in 7 years or in 10 years from now. And for us to overpay upfront is worth it because we know we're going to blow them away with experience over the next 10 years so that when they need to change that system in 10 years, we're the ones that they're dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, and that's that kind of mindset is what enables you to have sustainability within your company, as opposed to always chasing the next new client that's going to put a system in today. And they're like, that's obviously somebody calls you and that's what they want. Like, what, you're going to go do it. Like,
it's great. It's great.
But see, here's the other part though, is like, okay, now what do you do after that, after you've had that sale? Or if you do a service call and perhaps you don't do the change out, do you actually capitalize and capture the data on the age of their systems? Do you put that into a CRM system to be able to A, remarket to them, B, do happy calls, C, reach out when it's getting close to their life expectancy of their unit, right? What are you doing to be proactive versus reactive in your business? Sitting around saying, gee, my phone isn't ringing, I guess I'm not having really good success in business. That's reactive.
Yeah.
Making some outbound calls, checking in, doing happy calls, staying top of mind is proactive, and that's how you're going to be able to do that. Now, by the way, I know we talked about Sarah a little bit earlier. If you don't have the ability to, it's right up there, Sarah Systems, and we'll have the link in the show notes to check it out. But they have uniquely built into their system that capability when you bring them into the membership, that you can now have this data of how old your units are inside your membership base. It's just it's a different way to look at the business versus just sitting around waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that, like what you're talking about is making the phone ring, and that's typically a function of marketing, right? Correct. And I think that like what we're talking about, creating this system where you have processes in place that create an experience, generally speaking or broadly speaking, I firmly believe that customer experience is the new marketing battlefront. Right. Because there are not many businesses that are actually focused in on that experience. They're very new customer driven and churn and burn. which is a big part of the reason why we had the idea to start Prestige, because that's what we noticed. And if you can focus in on the experience, then you're going to set yourself apart from your competition in such a massive way that, like, the idea is to make somebody so wowed by their experience with you that why would they want to call somebody else? Why they wouldn't, because they had such a great experience and they know the person in the shop in your office by name, and there's a difference there, a distinction that it's really like it's palpable for people. Like we think we're in this age where everybody just wants everything they want when they want it, and that's true. But when you can slow it down and, like Robert was saying, meet people where they're at emotionally, that goes, and it sounds cheesy, but it's true. People have their stuff and they walk around with it and they carry it. And if you can kind of like, meet them where they're at and make them feel good about that interaction, they're going to remember that.
People will buy with emotion and they justify with logic.
Right. One other thing, I know we had Michael Torbay on the show a long time ago, and one of the things, and he flipped my idea on this, and I always want to preface this, and I always want to share this with people. When somebody calls, you want to meet them where they're at emotionally, stop asking them. One of the first questions that you ask is, "Oh, great, how did you hear about us?" They don't care, right? The shit's broken. They're in an instance of pain, and all you care about is your marketing. So I do that. He had a great longer snippet and a longer answer on that, but on the short side of things, make sure you're not asking that question, and you train your staff appropriately to be able to meet them where they're at emotionally.
Well, and to that end, like when you build anything that you're doing within your advertising, your marketing, your customer service, you shouldn't be thinking about how do I get what I want for my business. You should be thinking about how would the customer get what they want when they're interacting with me, and when you can flip that frame, then it enables you to actually put thought into it that aligns with the customer instead of what you're after as your own company.
I've loved
that. One of the things. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've loved a lot of this conversation around the mindset of answering the phone and why it is so essential to nail that part of your business, because the trickle down of that is you now have more book calls, you have more calls on your calendar, both outbound going to current clients and as well as inbound from brand new clients as well as existing. That are inbounding you, right? At the end of the day, it's more book calls on your calendar.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sorry. I thought are you done or?
Well, it was going to lead to a question, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
You've got some thoughts that you want to spit. So
I was just going to say, like, I think that, I spent a lot of time talking about the mindset thing because, like, if I think back to when I was a little kid and I used to ask why I wanted to know how everything worked.
Yeah.
And, my dad would just kind of be like, because I said so. And like, that was just never good enough for me. And so like, I was never motivated. If he told me to do something and I asked why, and he said, because I said so, I'd be like, well, that's kind of a shit reason, like, and so then like, I wasn't actually motivated to follow through and do the thing, or maybe I do it, but kind of go through the motions. And like, so as far as the mindset thing goes, if your CSRs understand why they're doing what they're doing, then they're going to be that much more likely to actually be motivated to do it. If they know why and they're invested in that, and then making them a part of that process of creating that experience, like if you build something yourself, like running your own business, nobody's ever going to work as hard in that business as you are. Right. But if you give your people autonomy to be a part of the creative process, putting that together and building it, I mean, that's where you get investment and motivation. And so that's a huge part of it as well.
One, ownership and buy-in, right? From your team. They've been a part of creating the process. So why wouldn't they own that? I love it. Robert, I cut you off earlier. Did you have a thought that you want to share around that?
Oh, yeah, that was miles ago. But no, my brain, I don't remember yesterday. No, one of the things was that in the mindset is that people walked around and said that we provide extraordinary customer experiences for each of our clients. Like if that's like your mantra or your mindset, that's something that, it becomes part of your culture. Your culture can be in small business. People go, well, culture is only for large businesses. I said, no, it's not. Culture starts with small business, and culture starts with, leadership, and it's like, if you walk around with that mindset that, we produce extraordinary customer experiences for each of our clients, not just for our clients, but for every one of them, that everybody that calls, no matter whether it's a vendor, by the way, a vendor is a customer of yours, and same thing with a client.
Even deeper than that, they're a team member.
Yeah. And it's just like they're part of this whole, this whole idea of, being able to be of service to them. And if we actually really believe that from a mindset point of view, that, and what Ryan was saying was mentioning too about, extraordinary customer service is delivered by its creators. Because if you look at it from the people that, if you have a methodology to be able to instill that mindset in them and have them invent the way about how to do that. We had a problem one time with one of our companies, my company, and that we had some people calling about how our phones were being managed, right? Well, that's really and was a different company. But so I asked my team, I said, look, here's what I want to have happen. I said, I want everybody to feel delighted, when they call and when they get off the phone. That's all I want. That's what I want as a result. So you guys go invent it. So they actually went away for a couple of weeks and then came back, and they said, Robert, he said, here's our headline. And our headline is everybody's smiling. That was their headline, right? So, because they got to sell it back to me, right? Everybody's smiling. And I'm going, oh, this ought to be interesting. And so then they went through this whole program. And so I had them actually build the program to present to me. And they built this thing based on the things that they could deliver and things. And I said, they said, look, we know that these three people are out at lunch and stuff. So how are the phones going to be managed that way? And they went through every little facet of what's going to happen. And then finally at the end, they said, and we probably need a new phone system in order to be able to do this. I said, great, let's do it. But the point was that when we implemented that, they did it 100% of the time. They did it because it was their program, but it satisfied the strategies that we wanted as the owners of the business by allowing them to be able to invent it. So I don't know if that helps at all.
It's huge, right? Yeah. It's absolutely huge. And again, it ties back into that ownership piece. It's funny, the company we used to work for, Best Version Media, 3 things you had to do every day were, I bet you all could name them off, but
get your head right, get your 3 uses.
Guard the culture, because I didn't like that.
That's all right.
Guard the culture, and then was get your 3 S's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's funny because I was having a conversation with a friend this week around well, what is the core concept behind those 3 things? Guard what it is that matters to you. Guard your values, right? What are the core values of your business? Do you have those written down? You need to protect those with everything that you've got, right? Get your head right. What is it you got to do to get your head in the right space so you can then proceed to the next thing, which is in that business is get your 3 S's. At the end of the day, what is it? Do your most important thing that you need to do on a daily basis. That's it. If you can do those 3 things on a daily basis, you're probably going to succeed at an extremely high level. When we look at our CSRs, the get your 3 S's part, the do what it is that is extremely important to you, I think of the KPIs. So when you're looking at your team, what are some of those KPIs, those key performance indicators that you're looking at? What are those benchmarks, those measuring sticks to determine whether or not your team is achieving success for your clients?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is ensuring that we do not have cancellations on the appointments that are set.
Right. Run rate.
What's that?
Run rate.
Yeah. So if you're setting if you're putting up a bunch of appointments, your conversions on connected calls are super high,
right?
But everybody's canceling. Well, then obviously there's an issue with how you're going about getting that yes, right? Mm-hmm. So the quality is the biggest thing, because if you're just putting up, there's companies that give that talk about, well, it's all about volume, and you want to put volume up, and it's what your numbers are, and when you get your guys into a house, you're going to close X amount. It's yeah, but not all calls are created equal. That's pretty freaking obvious. If that person has no idea who you are and why you're coming, it's going to be a pretty uphill battle for your technician to climb when they get to the house and they're going, oh, well, I'm with such and such HVAC and I'm here to do the service on your system. They're going to be like, nah, see you later. And obviously that's an extreme example, but when you're setting it up properly, people are going to be that much more likely to be warm and receptive to you coming and doing your thing. Their walls are down, or at least there's not, a second wall that they've now created around that. So that would be the first thing. The second is, on the connected calls that you have, you should be converting 30% of those into appointments, and if you're not, then what is going on there? And that's something to dive into.
And is that on outbound or is that inbound?
Correct. Outbound. Yeah. Inbound should be like every single one should be an appointment.
That's a dream.
Yeah.
Right.
The reality is it's not always that.
Sure. But it should be way higher than 30%. That's for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully.
If you've got an inbound call and somebody has an issue and they want answers, you should be able to convert at 90%.
Right.
So.
Okay.
You look like you're about to come up with something, Evan.
Well, I was just making sure I got those notes down because I'm going to need those.
Well, one of the things too, I'd like to share too for anybody that's on here. When we talk about a team building, the buy-in for that type of thing, a resource that they can use here that they could go look up. It's called Synectics. It's spelled Synectics, and it's a process that actually will help them actually build that, because you can't just ask them to do it because they don't have the skill sets to facilitate or process that. So,
a process to build what?
A process to build the buy-in process. If they're going to go ahead and build their own customer service or customer experience program, use a process called Synectics. Synectics means to bring incongruent parts together and make whole. It's a process that was actually used by FedEx, by several other startup, and that was when they were a startup company, and they actually use this process. I've used this process many times, and it works every time. So I just thought that some people are going to go, yeah, well, that sounds good, but how do you do it? And so it's like, so this actually gives you the tools in order to implement something like that. And if somebody gets stuck or something or wants to know, just have them get a hold of us, and we'd be happy to help them, point them in the right direction and give them those type of tools as well. So I just thought it might be a good resource.
I love it.
Well, on that note, if you do want to get in touch with them, perfect segue. You can reach out to them, prestigecontactgroup.com. These will also be in our show notes after. We only have Ryan's info, so I'm sorry, Robert. Blackburn.
Ryan, he'll call.
Right?
Everything. He's great.
He'll handle it all. So Blackburn at prestigecontactgroup.com. And of course, you just want to jump on and book a meeting with him. meetings.hubspot.com/R-Blackburn1. Must be a second R Blackburn out there that he wasn't able to take that URL, had to have the number 1 behind it. So
if you go to the website, you can get that HubSpot link and book a meeting with Ryan.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I did want to give you guys an opportunity to pitch your services here a little bit as well, because you've added tremendous value to a lot of people. I did want to go value first, especially with this conversation, because most people think of, again, like you mentioned earlier, Ryan, the sexy thing being sales. Well, this is what leads to more sales. This is what leads to more opportunities, right? Gretzky said, I miss 100% of the shots I don't take. This is how you get more shots, right? If you don't have the puck in your hands, you can't take a shot. This is what is setting up your sales guys in order to make an opportunity to make a sale, right? So that's why this is so essential. If in case anyone missed that in the last hour and 4 minutes that we've been talking, that's why we've had this conversation. So really quick, what is it that sets you guys apart? Why is it that someone needs to get on a call with you? Go.
Well, I think that the first thing is that if you're going to hire a third party to do calling for you, a lot of times the reason behind that ends up being that building out your own internal call center past a certain scale becomes like running and operating a second business inside of your first business. And like, who the hell wants that? It's not an easy thing to do. So people turn to third-party vendors for it. The problem is that there are so many vendors that are out there that are, it's set up where it's like, hey, we'll pay you per minute. Like you're going to buy a certain amount of minutes and it's going to be X amount per minute unless you go to this level, and then it'll be a little bit less per minute. And it's like, yeah, but what does that actually mean? What is that going to do for my business? I'm going to spend that much, and then what? You're like, how is that process going to work? And who's going to be talking to them? Who are these people, and what do they know about my company? And I think that the focus for us is that we don't just give lip service to being a brand extension. We actually embody that, where we actually dive in on your company. We learn exactly who you are, what makes you tick, your brand story, your involvement in the community, the people within your company that are in positions of leadership, your CSRs names, your technicians names. And when your customers are connecting with our customer engagement specialists, that's the title for our call agents, if you will. Our customer engagement specialist is going to know everything there is to know about your business, just like they would if they worked in your office. And the people on the other end of the line, our goal is that we're going to do a better job than you will internally. That's our standard, but they're not going to know the difference, because it's going to look and it's going to sound and it's going to feel like that's who they're talking to, is your company. And that's really the idea. There was a study done by Forbes, and it was like something like 96% of customers after a poor service experience are not going to do business with that same company ever again. And so, Robert was saying, like, you're betting the farm on somebody who's making like, $13 an hour or whatever. As far as what we do, we pay our people really well, and we ensure that they have ongoing training on a weekly basis. We have a program built out for 52 weeks out of the year. So they get that on a weekly basis. Much like the BVM stuff, we did training all the time. That's the same thing here. But it's the true brand extension, where we can be a real advocate on behalf of your business, operating as your business. We do inbound as well as outbound. So it's after hours and also overflow. And we book those appointments directly into your CRM. If we don't know how to operate within the CRM that you use, we'll learn it. That's part of our onboarding process. But we work with all the major ones that are out there. So no matter what you're operating with, we can work with you and book that directly in. So you're not getting an answering service that leaves you a message that your CSR then has to spend 15 minutes worth of work following back up on. And by then, who knows? Are they still interested? Did they call somebody else that, got to them and booked the appointment? We take all of that out of the equation.
Robert, anything to add?
Oh, yeah, I have one more thing to add, and that's our unique.
Ryan's got his finger up. He's got his.
I forgot the best part. We don't just give the lip service thing. I'm saying that because we actually back it up, and we give you a 7x guarantee on your spend with us. Ooh. So I don't know of any other call center out there that does that, but we do.
So Ryan's reading my brain. Since we share a brain, I've got one cell, he's got the other. And but yeah, that's one of the things I was going to talk about, was our value proposition about our 7x guarantee return on spend. We've actually built this thing financially really, really sound, so that it actually makes your operational load expense predictable, as opposed to right now it's unpredictable. We promise you, if you're using an outside service, we know this industry and we've studied it. And so we actually built a financial formula that actually not only supports what it is that you're doing, but it supports everything that your whole company actually is engaged with, which is very, very unusual from the standpoint of actually understanding the financial models of this, which is why we can offer this extraordinary guarantee, which we think is really different and unique.
Absolutely. So, yeah. No, it definitely is. From a guarantee standpoint, it's huge. But really, at the end of the day, the things that would matter to me is you actually give a shit. Like you said, Ryan, the fact that you learn and take the time to learn the brand story is so huge, right? Just to understand a company so that you can truly be an extension of the business. You are a partner within the business, not just a vendor of the business. And that's why I was really excited to have you on the show, is because I knew that you had that true compassionate heart, fun-loving spirit that you could bring to the business and and share it. Really quick, the services that you offer. So outbound calling, obviously. So calling current client lists. Are you doing inbound as well? Do you offer after hours as well? What is it that you offer?
Yeah, so there's the outbound to your database, and then there's the inbound overflow. So you'd set up your phone tree, whatever your standard is, 3 rings, 4 rings, or whatever, and then it would shift over to us. And then we do after hours until 10 p.m. your local time. And all of our customer engagement specialists they live in the U.S.
That was my next question. So
yep, yep. So English is their first language. And the best part about the outbounding side of things is that your customer engagement specialist is specifically assigned to your business. We don't have 50 call agents that know nothing about you that might be calling for you today and won't be tomorrow. And there's new questions for them to ask and for you to answer all the time. We get somebody in our onboarding process they have homework that they have to do on your business. And then we meet with you and we dive in on details with that so they can get the full picture and the full story, know who to contact about specific issues within your company if they don't have the answer, and then be able to set up proper warm transfers if that's necessary. We really dive in. So it's not just like, hey, do you want this like average call center service where we're going to like take a message and send it back and kind of just go, good luck with that. And we want to retain all of our clients. We're looking to build relationships, so our philosophy and mindset around how would you be best successful within your customer service reps and the mindset that they should have. It's the same mindset that we had when we were building this company. And I think that at every aspect of what we do, that's embedded within. It's relationships. It's not transactions, because that just, I don't want to chase my tail. I don't know, so that's not what I'm interested in.
Like the only people who like to chase their tail are puppies.
Yeah.
At least they look cute while doing it.
Right?
Amazing.
Evan, any final thoughts?
Yeah. Ryan and Robert, our last question. What is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
I think that the one question I wish people would ask us more is what are our resources for leadership relative to business? And because we actually embrace that in our culture and some of the things that we do, and we practice it. We use a book, if people really want to find out about some of our culture, we use a book called Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. And she actually gets into the nuts and bolts of what reality really is. And it's something that we really take seriously, and we practice it every week. And so I wish more people would talk and ask us questions about that as well.
Ryan, how about you?
I think that I think it would be surrounding the mindset piece, because so often it's like, what are the scripts and that, like, what's being said and what is, and that's kind of viewed as the substance. But to me, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, because I know I've talked about this quite a bit, but I think everything, it's the premise from which you're going to build everything else is, what is the reason, what is the why, and what is the reason, so like it's the mindset behind getting on the phone. Like, how do you do that successfully, repetitively all day long? And like, some people have a great time and then other people don't. And it's like, why? And it all starts in your head. So I think, to me, like, that's the most important piece of this. And it's kind of an elusive thing for people to grasp, because it takes some time to get to understand. But once you do, then it's a big deal.
100%. Well, it's something that, Jocko Willard talks about in his book, Dichotomy of Leadership, talks about it in Extreme Ownership. If your people understand the reason why it is that you're making a change, the reason why it is that you're doing what it is that you're doing, and you're trying to implement what it is that you want to implement, there's more likely to be buy-in. And if it works for the Navy SEALs when their lives on the line, I guarantee it'll work for the home services.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Inclusion. Well, it's what it is. It's inclusion, right? When you include your team, you're going to be able to take that to the next level because there we go. Inclusion is key. So he's quick on the draw. So he just exited himself out of the show. So way to go, Evan. He exited himself out as we're wrapping up. So let me
click the wrong button on the mouse.
Right. So that'll happen. Way to throw it for a loop right at the end. So well, I guess until next time. Cheers.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Robert.
Cheers.
R squared.
All right.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time.